Okay, call the meeting to order. All those that can, say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. It's so much better in person.
All right.
We can say the pledge together.
Roll call, please.
We are all present except for Mr. Salvia, who is regrettably somewhere quite warmer in here.
Regrettably, in his probably not,
Yes.
in his little.
Right. Get a motion to approve the agenda.
I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support. Moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamlin,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, consent agenda. Get a motion to approve.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mr. Hamlin,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Just out of curiosity, Justin, can you hear me okay?
You're a little echoey, but not too bad.
All right. Next item 6, announcements and information inquiry. There's a volunteer fair Wednesday, March 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. at 205 West Livingston. That's the, we call it the Annex or the Art Council building. A number of different names for it. It's put on by the Downtown Development Authority and it's looking for volunteers. So if anybody's interested, that's March 23rd, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Art Council building. There's going to be a special board meeting March 21st at 6:30 p.m. The agenda will be emailed out. That meeting is for a public meeting for the park on Hickory Ridge Road that we're looking at working with the MDNR to get a grant on. So we have to have a public meeting on that. So anybody that's interested, it'll be here 6:30 all the time. And come on in and give your opinion or ideas or whatever. So anybody else have anything they'd like to add to that?
Oh, I do. The 21st is Highland Garden Club has Janet McConovich speaking on container gardens. So if anybody's interested, you can find my email address on the website and email me and I'll send you the information. It's by Zoom, by the way.
Okay, at this time, I don't see any public here, so. Okay, there's a couple of, I'm assuming that there's a number of people here for the parcel on Middle Road. Yeah, that's a nodding heads, okay. We won't have a discussion on that at that point. This is just an introduction for a request for an ordinance change. Zoning ordinance, is that what it is? It's only an amendment. So when we get to that part, if you've got something you'd like to say, this is the time to put it out there. If you want to just wait and see where we get, I'm not gonna, we'll kind of play loosey-goosey on this one, because it can get a little bit unwieldy and then everybody with the same comment. So if you've got a comment, or you've talked with each other, pick somebody, and come up at the podium here, state your name and where you live, and speak your piece. So at this time, public comment. You may want
You might also want to comment that you have the entire record of the planning commission's public hearing.
to correct. I don't know if you heard that. We also have the entire record of the public hearing that was done at the planning commission for the same question. So it's kind of I think we're even going to do an adoption, hopefully do an adoption for zoning ordinance change to try and prevent this from having to happen again. When it gets presented to the planning commission is required to do a public hearing. So this property and all this same question has been heard at the planning commission. So if you spoke then, you are going to be repeating yourself. We have all of that information. We have all the comments that were made, so on and so forth. So we're making a decision to introduce it as either 1.5 or whatever we come up with here. The planning commission did make a recommendation. So if you feel that you made your point at the planning commission meeting, then you don't have to stand up. We've already got a record of that. But if you feel you want to make a statement, right now is the time to do it.
Rick, we do have David Bell online that would like to make a comment about community sharing too.
Okay, let's do the, you mind if I do the community sharing as one person? Okay, Dave, go ahead.
This is Dave Bell representing community sharing at 5061 North Duck Lake Road. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, thanks. I just want to give the board an update on the community sharing building at Beach Farm Circle. If you've been up in that corner of the property or at the library area, you can see the building is doing quite well, the exterior of the building. The main contractor, Wick Building, will actually try and be done off the site by Friday, completing their portion of the exterior and their portion of the interior. Things are going to look kind of quiet for a while now. One, we need warmer weather and the ground to start thawing so we can pour concrete inside the building. And also the north side of the building is in the shade, so there's snow and ice, and that's where some of the infrastructure and subcontractors will need to work. So even though things progressed the past couple of months, it'll slow down quite a bit visually from the road anyway. But I wanted to give that update and a thank you to the board. Excellent customer service when I walk in and ask a question. I appreciate that. And just want to let you know that how the building's going. I did want to add, we mailed out about 700 postcards to some the mobile home parks in Highland Township and other areas, reminding families we are open. We invite seniors to come to the food pantry twice a month because it feels like the seniors need a little more help than the families with children. So that's my update from community sharing. And again, thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, we'll go to public comment.
Yes, this is Bill Anderson. I live on Saddle Ridge. My property's about 700 feet from this proposed rezoning on Middle Road. And I have concerns over all the general environmental impact when it comes to runoff into the lake area, and how that will, any runoffs will have a tendency to accelerate the degradation of the lake, and it would fill in. If you increase your housing density, you wind up with more social conflict. Fido comes over and urinates on somebody's flowers, and there's a problem with that. We have wildlife in the area. We've got across my property, there's either anywhere between 6 and 10 deer. So what are we going to get into? People are saying, well, gee whiz, now that we got our small lots, we don't like all these deer. We're going to want to have a culling like they do down at Kensington, or like they do down in Ann Arbor. Are we going to get into that sort of a situation? You know, in addition, obviously, we've got all the obvious things, which are the additional stress on public services, whether it's fire or police or garbage, those sort of things. So, you know, those are all things to think about. You know, in my particular case, I'm downwind from 2 people that burn fireplaces in the wintertime. And, you know, if I decide to dry a load of clothes in my dryer, it pulls the smoke into my house. And you say, well, your house isn't tight. Well, gee willikers, if my house was absolutely tight, it popped my eardrums when I turned my dryer on, or no air would flow through the dryer so that I could even dry a load of clothes. And when I get those smells, I run outside and see whether or not my trees are on fire, whether my barn's on fire, whether my house is on fire, because I can smell smoke from these houses. So now you get a greater density, and these guys are going to see the same sort of downwind effect from these folks that are a quarter mile up the road from where I live, and they're going to see the same thing. So the more housing density you have, the more complaints on that end, the more social conflicts, your neighbors playing his radio too loud, all those sort of things are going to creep into the situation when you increase your housing density behind where we are, which is 5 and 10 acre plots.
All right, thank you. Lynn, would you please?
Lynn Yansford, 1528 Middle Road, Highland. I'm a lake resident. So, dealing with some of the things the man said about, the quality of the lake and how this is going to affect the lake. The couple things that I wanted, a couple points I want to make tonight are, number one, at the planning commission meeting, the lake community and Middle Road residents were unanimously in support of the 5 acre limit. And I think that's important because, that's what's on the zoning plan and, that we have out there. And we'd like to keep the larger lots in the community. I support that 5 acre minimum. The data points I want to share with you is for our lake, we have 31 sidwells. The proposal that I've seen is about 11 new homes on the west and north end of, Kellogg Lake. That's a 26% increase in the homes for our lake, 26%. The amount of runoff from those 26 homes is just going to be devastating in the future. The other point is we're only 65 acres and in circumference, the size, actually, the surface area, and about a minimum of a 5 to 6 foot minimum depth. So again, runoff from not only ourselves, but the increased 26% of these homes is just, the next 15 or 20 years, we're just going to be going toxic. So I hope tonight that the board would please reconsider the 5 acre minimum, for the future health of Kellogg. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next. We've got Lynn.
Yeah, another Lynn. Lynn Domeyer, 2555 Middle Road. I am directly across the street from the parcel. And in just the past 10 years, there have been 2 major accidents on my property alone. That doesn't count anywhere else on Middle. So the traffic problem that this is going to create is going to increase. If you have the 5 acre parcels, it will increase. If you have the 3 acre parcels, which the planning commission mentioned, it will increase again. And if you have the 1.5, then it becomes extreme with the traffic. The accidents I talked about are not minor, they're major. The most recent one, there was a 30 foot plus tree that came down and totaled our trailer and our boat. The one right previous to that was even more devastating. There was a young man who lost his life and a 12-year-old girl that broke her back as the car flipped over and went down the embankment. Now that's just where I live. That's just my property. So that in itself tells you that Middle Road has a problem with the traffic. Okay. I spoke to Mr. Mantua myself after the last meeting and he said that since he did what he wanted, that he doesn't plan on living there. So the impact will not have nothing to do with him other than with his wallet. So I'm asking you, don't let your decision be about money. Some information was presented to me and it said 2 newer subs in Highland have conservation space protecting wildlife, wetlands, and woods in and around the development. Maybe that's something to also consider with this area. Thank you.
Thank you. We have anybody else, anybody on Zoom that wants to speak? right, we got somebody in person.
Hi, good evening. Rich Wright, 3450 Saddle Ridge. My property is adjacent to the township property and to the lots. I bought out here 3 years ago, previous location, Highland, to have that space of 5 acres that I have, space around. That's buyer beware, right? Don't buy next to the airport with blank. But I also support a very minimum 3 acres, ideally 5 acres as a township board. So that.
Right, anybody else? Okay, we got somebody here.
Yeah, it'll be quick. John Jerome, 1462 Middle Road. Again, you bought a beautiful piece of property. Hats off to you. It is nice. I think the only thing is, as you can sit and listen, everybody's for building some condition of size of property, but we're all underneath the plan that was 5 acres all these years. And I don't think you're going to get too many arguments on that. But the other thing that wasn't clear on the last council meeting, and they were going to let us know, is what was the allotment allowed for 5 acres for frontage on the lake? Can you guys later on answer that or have someone look into it? Is it supposed to be 160 feet with 5 acres or 180 feet or 200? And that was one of the questions that came up in the last meeting. They were going to present and let us know, and we didn't get it. So, because you don't want a little pie shape of 50 acres or 50 feet of frontage, right? Versus 60 feet. Get all these little pies in there. So that was one of the things that came up. And again, 5 acres, I think you can see a pattern that, you know, we understand the gentleman.
Thank you. Okay, next.
I'm Jeff Stoner, 4787 Mallard's Landing. Kind of new to the workings of the township here. Attended the planning commission meeting regarding this topic here, and they were very informative from the standpoint that they were explaining what their role was, that they were to hear the applicant and then make a recommendation to the township board. We saw that item on last month's agenda. That was for the 3.0 acre recommendation. And then we see this month that it is changed to 1.5. A little confused there. Maybe you can help me understand that and clarify it more. How does that change from 3 to 1.5? Who put the item up there? Who makes that decision? We'd like to know. Thank you.
I'll answer that right now before you speak to get the answer on it. The request from the applicant was for 1.5. That's what went to the planning commission. The planning commission, the request is still 1.5, but it comes to the township board with the applicant asking for 1.5 with a recommendation from the planning commission for 3 acres. So we have to put what the applicant requests. And that's why it was done that way. If we were to put it as 3 acre, then we jumped ahead of the game and kind of made an opinion or made people believe that that's what it was going to be. We don't know right now because we haven't voted on it. And it's going to be an introduction, and we're not voting necessarily particularly to say what it is. It's an introduction. So that's why it says 1.5. Okay, anybody else?
It's Pat Sidge, 1498 Middle. And I just want to make a couple brief statements. We're new to the community. We've only been here about 2.5 years, almost 3. And our search for new residents took my wife and I a little over 2 years. I was constantly looking for where we wanted to move. And there were certain criteria that we had. I wanted some land and acreage where I could have a pole barn. She wanted the lake. This was a perfect fit. Very hard to find in Oakland County. We had a 5 acre minimum, which just fit our bill perfectly. It's the ideal location. It's what drew me here. It's what I want to stay here. I think deviating from that 5 deteriorates from respect to people coming to this community like and to us. And I can't say how I've been extremely happy here. It just fit our bill. And I hope that the remarks that the citizens are making here are taken into consideration. And I implore you just to consider what the needs and wants of your constituents and citizens are. I would implore you to keep it to a 5-acre. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Scott Johnson, 4280 Mallard's Landing. I spoke at the previous one. I'm still opposed to decreasing the lot size for all the reasons mentioned before. Traffic issues, drainage, character of the community being another big one. I don't know if this is still part of the plan here for the builder, but my lot actually is right across the street within Mallard's Landing from the proposed property. The one thing I'm wholeheartedly against, there was talk about putting an easement through there to let that subdivision exit into our subdivision. I know sometimes easements are granted for the purposes of ingress, egress, but my understanding is those are for public roads, not private roads. Ours is a private road that we maintain. It's a small community. We have, pretty much everybody walks their dog on that road. Everybody's kid rides their bikes on that road. To put another 50 or 80 cars potentially coming through there would not be good for us. So, wholeheartedly opposed to decreasing lot size.
Hi, I'm Joyce Height, Mallard's Landing. In the January meeting, someone had suggested that the lot sizes in Mallard's Landings were about 1.5 acres. And I was driving by our 2 huge common areas, and we have 44 houses, and I think all of them are lakefront. And so what I'm saying is, I think the 2 common areas, which are like a block long each, really deep, I'm thinking it's possible we're at least 3 units per house, 3 acres per house. And I have a map here, and I'm sure you guys know how many acres our whole development is. So I wanted to just make sure that you knew that. Anybody interested?
Yeah, we have that.
Yes?
We'll take it.
Oh.
All right, anybody else?
I believe I have someone online, Mr. Mantura.
Okay. Michelle?
It's Jillian Mantua.
Okay, let's Mike's name on there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is his wife. I couldn't be there tonight, unfortunately. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
First, I just wanted to clarify a few points. The first Lynn that spoke, she said that she had plans shared with her. I just want to let the community know that, to my knowledge, we have not shared any plans with her, and we've been hesitant, to be honest, to share plans due to all of the commentary that has come from the community. And I think we've come to realize that no matter what decision we make on this land, that we're going to get a lot of pushback from the community. If we were to build 5 houses, I get the impression that we would get a lot of pushback, and that's really disappointing. Someone said in the first meeting that we were developers. Like, there's a lot of things that have been said about us that are so far from the truth. And I just implore everybody that's out there today, we're Highland residents of 12 years. I've got children, in our home, and there's nothing malicious that our intentions are to do. We're not land developers. We haven't done this before. Highland Township has been amazing to work with. The commentary of things personally said about us, whether it's online or in these meetings, to be honest, it's hurtful. We talk about the community and having people together, and those things are hurtful for me as a family, and for people to share those things with me. I try to avoid being online, to be honest, because of that. So please just keep that in mind as you're commenting about ourselves or what our intentions are. If we haven't directly shared our intentions with you, I would appreciate if you either came and asked us, or you waited for the proper process to understand what we would like to do. So that's just the only thing I wanted to say out there to the community, because these are things that I don't want people misconceiving who we are or what we're here for. We have great relationships with many people throughout the community, and we love it here. And I really don't want to, I don't want to not love living in Highland Township and not love this beautiful land that we bought, that, we bought it for a lot of the reasons that you guys are talking about. We would like more land. We would like pole barns. We would like things of that nature. So if in the future, if you guys wouldn't mind just being as respectful as you can of us, and feel free to, I like hearing everyone's opinions. We like to hear from the community, but also please just be respectful. We are a family in Highland Township. I don't want to be angry at people when I go out and see them at Calasantes or when I'm out in public or walking dogs. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to respond to that, because Jillian, I was in a meeting with you in November and you did show us a proposal. And I counted the homes on that proposal and there were 11. Whether you go ahead with that or not, you and your husband, that's up to you. But I did see the proposal.
Okay.
I'm Alyssa Gonzalez. I'm at 2145 Middle Road, and my boyfriend and I have been there for over 2 years now. So also new to the area and new to this is wanting to get more involved in the community, and I see there's a huge community turnout for small neighbors. Also agree, I think, and took a lot of the classes that were proposed and sent through the emails about what effect this would have on the lake, how small it actually is, and how developments like this have, on larger sizes of lakes have just deteriorated the lake and shrunk the size of the lakes itself. I live across the street from the actual lake, and so we have lakefront where I have the kayaks, and I think increased traffic on the lake itself would be a really big, consideration. And I like to kayak; it's pretty quiet. There's a lot of tubers and things like that in the lake, but it's very quiet. But I think the difference between 24 houses and 80 houses is a really, really big difference on the lake, off the lake, in the area. So I would, you guys would consider the fire. Thank you.
All right, anybody else?
My name is Art Smith. I live at 4769 Mallard's Landing. A lot of things have been said. And we as homeowners in the community received information, bits and pieces. We don't know what's accurate. We don't know what's being proposed. We don't have an idea where the access from Middle Road is going to go into this property. We don't know where the idea or the thought is where this easement from Mallard's Landing to the property is going to go. We don't know how many houses they're talking about building. We don't know exactly if all the houses and all the lots are going to be the same. The information we have is incomplete. Until we get a formal proposal, until we know exactly what the owners of that property are truly planning, the rest of us are in the dark. And we're making assumptions, we're making opinions based on hearsay, false rumors, inaccurate information, but mostly incomplete information. We want the facts. We don't want the guesses. So as homeowners in that community, we'd like to see what's being planned for our community or next door to our community. And we haven't had that. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
All right, any more comments?
So just so you know, we're meeting with Mallard's Landing HOA on Wednesday. So we'll go over our plans again that we talked about before. Initially, our intentions are 17 parcel splits, which is the max we can do. Whether we get 5 acre splits, 3 acres, 1.5. 1.5, we'd develop less of the land because we're still only doing 17 splits regardless. So I want more land to hunt, run around with kids. So 1.5 would allow us to have a bigger space that would never get developed. Either way, we're planning on, our intentions are to do 17 parcel splits. That's our goal. And we're meeting with Mallard's Landing on Wednesday, to see if there's any way we can work together. Before we even start this process, we met with them as well. So they're supposed to relay that information. Apologize, you guys didn't get it. Like she said, she's seen some of the plan. We'll get more information out to you. I know we'll communicate again. Hopefully, we can get it pushed to you guys. More to come.
All right, so I think what we'll do, I think everybody's pretty much spoke their piece. Anybody online there, Justin?
I haven't had anybody else state an intention to speak.
So we're gonna call into the public comment period. Any other comments? I mean, this is public comment. It doesn't have to be about this property. So if you got something you can say, you still have that opportunity. Otherwise, done. So we'll move on. Thank you. Appreciate your coming here tonight. Next item is, I hope I can make this work, Chief. Just realized that we have to do it through the Zoom, so be ready. I'd like to introduce the Chief of our Fire Department, Ken Chapman, and I've got to try and bring up a presentation on screen.
It works. Good evening, all. Thank you for coming to our hiring blitz. Just give the fire marshal your license on the way out. We'll get you started and get you trained as soon as possible.
Start, play from start.
Be prepared. There might be some loud stuff in here. We gotta.
We're trying to work between the Apple products and Allie use the Microsoft stuff. So this is all foreign to me, and my stuff's all foreign to him.
All right. This is Zoom playing with us. So hang on a second. Let's get this. Let me back out of here.
I can do a little tap until this program starts. My mom and dad spent all the money on my dance lessons. In all actuality, you don't want to see me dance.
And you go back to the beginning.
I'll give them the letter one.
All right.
All right, my battalion chief in charge of training is passing out some notepads. We've got 4 speakers tonight. We're gonna make this really quick. I told everybody that they got 5 to 7 minutes. So if you have any questions, please just write it down on a notepad. We'll circle back around to it at the end. This is just an informational update on where our department's at. Thank you all for coming tonight. Welcome to our beautiful building. Thank you for providing that for us. We put a lot of time and effort into developing our current system and our current department, and this is just kind of a recap of everything from that. We've created a new mission statement. Our mission statement is, it shall be the mission of the Highland Township Fire Department to provide the highest level of public safety services to our community possible, protecting lives, property, through all hazard response, including but not limited to fire suppression, emergency medical services, code enforcement, hazard mitigation. Our members will be professional, considerate, and compassionate at all times. Our department is made up of 35 employees. We have 8 full-time employees, including the fire marshal and myself, 6 shift employees, and then 27 paid-on-call part-time employees. Our 35 employees work under 4 divisions: administration, operations, training, and code enforcement, public education. This is just our flow chart for our department. Everything in gold is our administration, staff personnel, myself, fire chief, my assistant chief, Richard Cole, operations chief, Mark Weiskell, battalion chief in charge of training, Jeff Paskowski, and then our fire marshal code enforcement is Sean Bell. Everything to the left is all of our shift employees. Everything to the right is our paid on call staff. We staff, which Captain George will talk about shortly. We staff 4 people a day. We have 2 full-time employees assigned each shift, red, white, and blue shift, and then they're supplemented by 2 paid on call members. For the administration part, my responsibility is to coordinate all the divisions of the department. I have to make sure that we meet MyOSHA and OSHA compliance, NFPA standards. We assess the township needs. 2017, we started staffing the department 24 hours a day with 1 person. We've just kind of progressed throughout. Transporting EMS, which we'll talk about shortly, was another issue that we've had to address recently. We also plan for future hazards or hindrances to service to the community. Collapse of the EMS system, which we'll talk about, and recruitment of future staff. And then it's our responsibility to manage the fire fund. Both everything that's spent out from my budget comes through my desk. It's accounted for and it's assigned to the proper line out of jail line item. This is just a recap. Marsh Part 74 is an all-inclusive state standard that covers everything in the fire service, from turnout gear to training to requirements for positions. There's several other MIOSHA regulations, which the training chief will talk about. But this is just one of the aspects that we have to be considered of. NFPA 1021 standard for fire officers, 1500s occupational wellness for the firefighters, then safety officers. There's a ton of different NFPA standards that we have to be compliant with, and our job is to make sure that our staff is trained to the level they need to be. This just talks about a little bit of the transition of our department over the past few years. Prior to 2017, we had 2 shifts a day. They ran from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon and 8 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning. We had a private EMS provider that was providing EMS for our community, which EMS is 85% of our run volume. We had to, as we started seeing a decrease in response from our EMS provider, we had to start being a little more prepared as a department. We were already a BLS transport agency, but we weren't capable of providing ALS at the time. So ALS is advanced life support, BLS is basic life support. BLS, they can do CPR, they can do splinting, basic life support, basically. Advanced life support is, we bring the cardiac monitors in, we have the ability to do intubation, we have the ability to do IVs, IOs, where they stick a needle into the bone. We can get the medications for cardiac events, for diabetic events, anything they can do in the emergency room, we can do in your living room. So 2017, we started staffing up to 2 people 24 hours a day. To meet the needs of the community in 2018, we required a minimum of 2 people a day. 2019, we had to hire our first full-time employees. With paid on-call system, most of my guys had full-time jobs. So Monday through Friday until 5 o'clock, it was almost impossible to get staffing in the station. So we had to introduce full-time staff to the department. Our first 2 hires were from outside the department. One was an EMS coordinator, one was a fire training coordinator. They worked under our battalion chief for training, but they provided the daily training programs to the staff on a daily basis. They also worked shifts, and they were considered part of the shift personnel. In 2020, we started seeing more of a decrease in responses from EMS. So we started staffing 1 24-hour person a day, plus 1 paid on call person a day. We did allow up to 3 personnel, but we saw the changes coming in EMS. So earlier in the year, we presented to the board to upgrade our service from basic life support to advanced life support. So basic life support is Band-Aid, CPR. Advanced life support is providing everything in the emergency room in your living room. So we assigned 1 full-time person each shift, and then we had a full-time person. By August of 2020, we got our approval from the state of Michigan to provide ALS for the community. And the very next day, we got a call from our private ambulance provider saying that they couldn't respond anymore. They didn't have the staff. They picked up a contract with Commerce, which they're not. They didn't have the staff to provide service to our community, let alone anything else. 2021, we increased our staffing up to 2 full-time employees per shift, which gives us the up to 4 people a day, and then we're just maintaining that practice. But you'll hear me talk a little later about the collapse of the EMS system. I do my best to try and keep our board involved in everything that comes across as we get new articles and over the internet. locally or through the nationally, I try and share them with my board. This one came out,
August 12th.
oh, Rush, you can see that. August 12th, 21. There's a bicycler hit on a bicycle in Ann Arbor. They waited for 45 minutes for an ambulance to get there, never showed up. They called an Uber, Uber came, picked the guy up, took him to the hospital. Had a broken leg. Michigan Association of Ambulance Services, Southfield over in the other corner, EMS on life support in Michigan. This has been something that's been coming for the past 5 to 7 years, maybe even a little longer. Now it's coming to a head. The pandemic, it truly accelerated all the collapse of the system. I know this goes into everything that comes through the office has to have my signature on it, and then I enter it into our accounting program, and then it's paid off through the township. All right, I'll turn this over to Captain George. Captain George is a red shift commander. He's one of our first full-time employees. He's in charge of this shift now.
So going on to the operations division, that's when you call 911, when we're going to respond. Mainly it breaks into 2 different divisions. We have fire and EMS. Your 2 main divisions of it. We're going with that. You have your fires, structure fires, extrication, CO alarms are our major responses for your fire department on that. With this, we primarily respond with an EMS rig with it. Almost every fire response nowadays with those. With structure fires, there's always potential for injuries. You're always going to see an ambulance with them. Extrications, you always potential for injuries with any kind of vehicle extrication. So we have those down too. So with that, what Chief was talking about with needing ambulances with those, that's why we have that need for more staffing every day. So we always have to increase our personnel and have that increase in staffing on every day to man those ambulances, which is one of the things we have to do, and why we increase that staffing. We do police assist and citizen assist. Those are 2 of those things that don't really fall under fire division and police division all the time. EMS division, you have your medicals, your traumas, lift assist, things like that. Last year alone, we did 1,754 calls of service. 1,428 of those were EMS alone. Those might not have been any kind of fire responses at all. Some of them may have needed fire responses where we had to call extra manpower to come in to help us lift patients, move patients, get them out of the woods, get them out of back in the woods. There's hunting accidents, things like that. Or maybe there's heavier patients, maybe they're up on the 2nd story, 3rd story of their home. You need extra hands carrying them out. A typical ambulance only responds with 2 people in it. So not everybody can carry the average exercise everyday person. So sometimes carrying down steps is not safe for 2 people. So you always want at least 4. So we'll bring in more people to carry that person down steps, things like that. So that we're all safe. We can always make sure that nobody's getting hurt, including the patient getting more injuries besides whatever they call us for. Here around here, we're all a hazard community, all hazard operations. Picture here of our ambulance on here, fire truck and our brush truck, have our tanker in the background, some of our pictures to go over. Picture on the top left corner actually was just taken the other day. Speaking of police assist, that was actually me in our Gumby suit going out to rescue a snowmobile. So no patient, no injuries, no nothing. Whoever was driving the snowmobile was gone. That was the snowmobile going out the county. The tow truck driver had no way of getting out to the waterway. So the snowmobile driver was out there. That's what they were doing at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll let quick imagination take over with that one. So we got a phone call for the snowmobile in the water. One of our major concerns is property conservation. We're going to protect property. So we go out there to make sure it's not going to hurt the waterways, hurt the water systems any more than it already has. So we go out there, we get tied some ropes onto it, get out of there. Everybody might have saw in the news the other day at the golf, at the golf course. Recognize that picture? Picture of vehicle education in the background there. But we are a all hazard response. If people don't know what to do, they call 911. That's who they're going to send out there. They're going to get the fire department. You're gonna get in the ambulance, you're gonna get a fire truck. We're gonna figure out what to do to fix the problem. 24-hour staffing, the chief mentioned, we staff our station 24/7. Our current goal is 4 personnel on a day, 24/7. If somebody calls in, we'll drop down to 3. That's if we have to. If we drop down below that, we will start calling people and logging them and logging them and logging them until we get back up to that 3 level. Our goal is 4 people a day. No, go back. Station 1 staff is staffed at 24 hours a day, 24/7. At night, we staff station 2. Due to the conditions that station 2 is written right now, it's the reason you guys passed the millage to let us build a new one. It's not made, it's not set up to staff people 24 hours a day. It doesn't have a kitchen area, it doesn't have proper amenities to house people for 24 hours a day. So we only staff it at night. People sleep there at night. So when we're staffed with 4 people at night, we'll send 2 of them from here over there. They'll sleep there at night for faster response times for the community on the east side of the community. So then during the day, everybody will respond from here. If we drop down below that 4 staffing, everybody will respond from here for safer planned out response. That's on chief, train chief. But
Just real quick before you go back 2 slides.
He's jumping in.
So the Open Hills Golf Course fire that everybody saw in the paper, you know, 90% of our run, or 80% of our runs are EMS based. A lot of our fires are smaller fires, but if it is a larger structure or fully involved structure, we had one recently up on Milford Road. We don't have the resources internally if all of my staff show up to manage or handle those types of incidents. So we have what's called mutual aid. Actually, at the Oakland Hills Golf Club, they called for mutual aid going all the way out to our department. We sent 2 people down there. Springfield sent 2 people. North Oakland sent 2 people to relieve their staff so that they could go back, get cleaned up, get warmed up, get some food in them, and then come back out for the next operational period. We can't do this. No department in the area can do it by themselves, with the exception of Detroit. No department in the area can do it by themselves. They're always calling for additional resources, even Birmingham's and Waterford's and everything else. They're using additional resources from neighboring departments. So having that Oakland Hills Country Club fire is important because it does signify how we work as a team across borders. Chief.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chuck Paskowski. I'm the Battalion Chief in charge of training. I got some bullet points to hit tonight for you to give the community a little bit better understanding of the training requirements for our staff. Like Chief mentioned, we have 8 full-time personnel, and then the rest of us are all paid on call. I work a full-time job still at GM, and that's what a lot of our other staff, they work full-time too. So training requirements that are getting put on us. These guys, after they work their jobs, they have to spend 2 to 4 hours sometimes of training a couple times a month. So it's a little bit of a burden, but it's a necessary burden. The more we enhance our skills, the better we can serve our community. Ocean Part 74, Chief touched on it a little bit. There's multiple parts to that. We have to train our staff to all the levels of their basic fire training on a 3-year rotation. So it's your extrication, fire suppression, ventilation, search and rescue. Everything that we do when our community calls us, we have to train on that within a 3-year period. Oakland County Medical Control, I'll reference it as the OCMCA. That is the board that oversees how we're trained and how we operate under our license for life saving agencies or LSA. As you all lived through the pandemic, like all of us, a lot of the county protocols have changed, the state protocols have changed over the last couple of years on how we respond to COVID emergencies versus non-COVID emergencies, the type of protection we need to wear, the type of protection we need to get to our patients when we take them to a hospital. Online training, we provide online training for our guys to make it more conducive to their lifestyle with being working and families, where they can sit at home and do a lot of the mandatory training that's required by the state and go CMCA to maintain their license levels for the, whether you're a basic EMT or a paramedic. FTO program. This is something that we started back in 2018. When I first got an apartment, I went through Fire 1 class. Now we go through Fire 1 and 2, our new folks. And when I got to the fire department, basically, here's your gear, let's go. I had no real formal training prior to being put in service as a firefighter for the community. For the last 30 years, we've been trying to make it easier for our new folks that we hire to be fully trained and come off of a probationary period with the skills necessary to go on day one. Process could be up to a 2-year process for someone that we hire with no training at all, or it could be up to 6 months if we hire somebody that's already been trained with Fire 1 and 2 and basic EMT. Once they go through this process, towards the end of it, they go through a proficiency test where we put them on a fire truck. They have to come off the truck, put in a pump water on it, give a scene size up, let us know what's going on a serial basis, and make sure that they're ready to go. Once they come off of all that probationary period of the proficiency test and they do the first shift here, we are confident that you guys are going to get 100% qualified firefighter EMT showing up to your house to do a 10-year emergency. This program has been especially helpful for our community. When I helped train in the North Oakland Fire Academy. That's where we send our recruits. And talking to other recruits in various departments for us and Milford doing this FPO program, these other guys, they have nothing like that. When they hear that our new guys get to work a 4-hour shift with our full-time firefighters, so they get a necessary skill built up to be ready to do that, they're flabbergasted. They're like, "What? We're not even allowed in the fire stations." They're going to recruit some of the departments around here. So this gives our new recruits the best that we can offer local county basically for. County's got an emergency or incident management team, hazmat team, and technical rescue team that provides special services that our department can't provide by ourselves. Hazardous materials is a big animal if we have something here in town. So we have two of our firefighters are currently on the Oakland County hazmat team. We have a truck for the Oakland County that's here in our station that can respond to any emergency in Oakland County. With that being said, we also have technical rescue teams. We don't have too many silos in our township. But we do have issues where people are digging big holes and doing infrastructure work, especially if there's a trench collapse, specialized equipment, specialized tools. A lot of guys to take care of issues like that. We're in the process of putting 2 of our guys through training to become tech rescue specialists with the team. Our captain Proponic has just been introduced on the IMT team here recently with the pandemic because of the operations that Oakland County had going with trying to manage all the supplies needed, all the communications, all the movement of personnel and ambulances around the county to deal with the pandemic emergency, especially early on. Regional training. We've been involved with regional training and more so in the last 4 years. Some of you may have seen before the new Highland house opened up. The owners there provided the old building for us to train in. We spent 3 days coordinating with all the area departments around here, doing search and rescue training, ventilation training, cut holes in the roof, doing down firefighter scenarios, and rescuing our firefighters if something happens, so if they're caught in debris fields and stuff like that. Last year, we secured a grant from the state to provide online training because of the pandemic for Charleston 9 presentation. If anyone's not familiar with Charleston 9, back in 2007, Charleston, South Carolina lost 9 firefighters in a SOFA fire or SOFA warehouse, furniture store. Well, Dr. Griffin, who puts a presentation on, he's currently the battalion chief. When that happened, he was an engineer on the pumper that was fighting that fire where those 9 guys lost their lives. This is a hair-raising presentation to go through because he provides actual audio from firefighters asking them to tell their families that they love them because they knew they were going to perish in the fire. So all the lessons that were learned from that, from him being a new person on the engine and not really having the training to know how to engage the pumps and flow water to the lines of the guys inside, and how they had the mentality, this is how we always done it. Okay. The other thing that came out of that is the struggles that he had afterwards, dealing with losing 9 brothers in one incident. It's bad enough losing 1, but 9. And the drug addiction, alcoholism, thoughts of suicide that he went through and was able to overcome that and present this out to the fire service. My heart, I believe everybody in the fire service needs to see this presentation. We're all in our little sandboxes here, but we're all do the same job. Coming up here, March 24th, we're hosting that presentation. We're able to provide 90 firefighters that online training with the state money that we got from the fireworks fund to provide that. There's 90 firefighters from the county. March 24th, we have Chief Benham, Battalion Chief out of Toledo Fire, 2014. They unfortunately lost 2 guys in line of duty. He's going to come out here, put out a 4-hour presentation to our staff and to some of the other area departments around here. The same thing. This is how we always done everything. This is the lessons we've learned from it and make it apply to our new firefighters that are older firefighters that have been around for a few years. The other regional trainings we've done, if you want to click on the slides here, it's some of our community involvement also. If you click on the video here, one of our residents was tearing down an old structure. You see a big one going up on Duck Lake. Let us use his house to practice some of our skills. So we were able to do search and rescue training, ventilation training, firefighter rescue. So this is
department also has a TikTok page, which this is from, and I apologize for the music. Go ahead. So the simulation we're doing here is firefighter fell through the floor into the basement, is uninjured, but is trapped and can't get out of the basement. And you'll see how we use the fire hose to pull the firefighter out, which is actually me. Of course, I'm a little guy, they want the little guy, so they're not having I'm sitting right here.
No audio.
So Nisa here is securing herself in the back. She's got a hose line going down in the hole that if there was active fire still down there, she can put the fire out as they're trying to get me out. May look uncomfortable when it wasn't bad, so I'll basically put the fire hose between my legs and the guys are going to pull me up on the. What's that? No, I wasn't screaming. So these guys were going, oh my God, thank God we don't have somebody else bigger down there. But basically just assist me getting out of the hole. And that was some of the skills that we're able to enhance having that opportunity. If anybody knows of any residents that are going to be demolishing the house, if we can let them know, call the fire department, we'd love to have it for a day or two. This next slide here shows through our regional training that we've done with other area departments, we got this idea for a Highland fire. I don't know if you've ever seen fires before where they've had these big water tanks sit out on the street that were taking water out to fight fires. There's a lot of our areas don't have hydrants. Takes a lot of manpower to set up a porta tank, what we call them, and operate it and being able to get the water out of the tank into our truck into the fire. This is what we call a hitch. One of these lines goes 50 feet one way, 75 feet the other. The big tankers that carry 3,500 gallons of water, we have two will pull up, hook into them, and start feeding the truck without just one person standing there, and then the operator in the front. And then making probably 4 or 5 guys available to fight fire, prevent form search and rescue stuff. So next one. This is ice water rescue training that we did over the Highland Hills subdivision. We did this with Highland Fire, one of their Chief Down, their Assistant Chief Thompson, was a certified ice rescue trainer. He came out and provided training for us. This is us simulating to get this victim here out of the water using a rescue swing. Forget the gentleman's name, but one of the owners in the Highland House here was the ones that let us use their facility. For the 3 days, we provided them with a fire helmet that has Highland Fire on it for them for doing that. This is some of the groups getting ready to go in. You can see all the fake smoke that we use to make it dark and smoky in there, like simulate as much real light as we could. This is some of the props we made inside there. So this is a narrow confined space, and you actually, when you get, if you get into something like that, you actually have to take your air pack off, leaving your mask on, and shove that through first. This is how they had this guy rigged up to pull him on the structure. This is what it looked like inside. And this little video that they we had Huron Valley Schools come in and do some video for us when we did this. Just tap on it and then where it should go on. Yeah, they had the camera move fast, it was just a quick intro. So they're looking, that's our thermal imaging camera that we use. You can actually not really see through the smoke, but you can see everything that's in there that's through the smoke, and then we get ourselves on. I encourage everybody, when you happen to see us train or whatever, you know, especially out here now at our new station, pop in and say hi. You know, we're trying to train with all of us around here, especially with limited manpower. We rely on mutual aid, and we all train the same. So when I have firefighters come from North Oakland or Milford, White Lake, Heartland, we all kind of know the same game when we're going in there to do what we have to do. That's the next stuff.
Nice job.
Thank you.
You're all still here. I'm so excited. I have an audience still. Put you to sleep. My name is Sean Collin, Fire Marshal, Ordnance Enforcement Officer here in Highland Township. I've been in the fire service. I'm going to give away my age here. I started when I was 18-year-old and I did from the township to the paid on call. I've been in the service ever since in some form or another, through private ambulance services, fire departments. Chief Chapman and I met when I got hired in the City of Wayne Fire Department back in 1994. And we worked together. I did my 20 years of service. He did 25. We retired and called me up one day and said, "Hey, I've got an interesting job opening available. Would you be interested in coming up and applying?" So my job is a little bit different. I'm not only the fire marshal, but I'm more of the enforcement officer. So basically, it was a prototype kind of a job, I guess, where they're like, "Hey, let's see if we can blend these two jobs together and make one job out of it work." They needed an ordnance officer. My predecessor had retired. They needed a fire marshal. Let's put them together. There's code enforcement. Let's see if we can make it work. So I started here late part of 2017, and we just started putting a program together. So here real quick, and I'll try to be quick as well. Some of the things that I talk about real quick, go back one. I'm going to try to talk fast. Last time we did a presentation with Rick's shaking his head because Ken and I got the look after about an hour last time. So my job is basically the fire, life safety, and property maintenance codes are some of the things that I enforce. We work through, we do blight reduction. Blight reduction will be on the ordinance side of it. So basically that's the inoperable cars. You drive around your neighborhoods, you see cars or junk in neighbors' yards. Blight, that's what blight is. It's just kind of a nuisance and eyesore, things like that. Spring, my other job from the fire marshal side is I work with other different departments doing sprinkler, fire alarm, and building plan reviews. We work with Beth over in planning and the zoning departments. We work with it hand in hand with the building department. As far as different plans and projects that come into the township. We'll actually be working with the neighborhood that you're working with. They're going to be calling us up and going, hey, how are we going to work these roads? Are these going to be private roads? Are they public roads? Whatever they are, what are the requirements for roads for fire department access? So those are different steps that we take in the process of development as well. We developed a rental inspection program. We'll talk about that real quick. And neighborhood conflict resolution. Neighbors this time of year, it was really nice the last month or two when it was really cold and nobody was outside this time of year. The weather's getting nice. Neighbors are getting out and hating on each other and realizing that they've built out, so this is the time of year where all the, my neighbor's dog, you mentioned something about somebody's dog peeing on the flowers. Yeah, I get those calls. But that's all right. So we have neighbor conflict resolution. We get neighbors and our job is just, they're both our customers. You have the person complaining, the person being complained about. They're our customers. We just got to make the problem, make everybody happy, make the problem go away. And we've been pretty successful with that. I'm kind of proud of that fact. And response and pre-planning, that is another part of the fire marshal's position, which we'll talk about as well. And then the last thing, which we've kind of been hampered with because of COVID, was public education. We usually try to get out into the schools, the elementary stage schools, school kids. We do station tours, we have pancake breakfast, open houses, things like that. We try to get out and interact and do some fire prevention with kids and the public as well. We also offered at a point in time, which we're really limited right now, is we're offering some free smoke detectors to low income and elderly individuals in the township. That was another program that we tried to go through as well. So this one here this one here was kind of an interesting, I call it, every one of my big projects gets a label. The secretary, administrative assistant, we labeled it. This one was affectionately known as Kitty City. This was a fire, life safety, and a property maintenance issue. This call originally came in from, by the way, my job is probably the most exciting one. These guys do all the fire and stuff. It's boring. I get out in the community and come across these really interesting projects. This one originally came in as a fly complaint from a neighbor. They were just tired of flies coming from their neighbor's house. So we got there and found out that there was, it was a hoarding situation. I think, actually, real quick, what I'm thinking of is a cooperative effort down there at the bottom. This is something that I think is really cool, is we work with your township, we work together. This one involved not only the fire department, it involved the sheriff's department. We had sheriff deputies out there with us at times, the building department, all the trades, electrical, plumbing, mechanical. We did an inspection of this house, a quarter inspection. We had all the trades out there from the township, all the township inspectors, the animal control. This was a cooperative effort from all of your departments. And I thought it was really cool that we all got together. We got this problem solved. As you're going to see, it actually has a really great outcome. So actually, it was an animal hoarding situation. There was live and deceased animals. The property was, you couldn't get about 50 feet before you're getting hit in the face by the odor. The structure, integrity, it also was a life safety issue inside. I have video of this that you have to have a good stomach to watch. No thanks. Excuse me. So throughout this project, we were actually able to recoup some unpaid tax liens. We were actually able to get this property sold. A local developer ended up purchasing it. In the process of renovating and resolving this issue, there was 20 40-yard dumpsters of trash taken out of that house. In Oakland County took 13 feral cats. There was numerous, I don't even remember the amounts, I don't think I have it in there, dead animals, cats, raccoons, possums, and cats removed from this property. And along with vehicles that were towed and so on and so forth. The next one I think is, this is kind of on the left is a before. The chief and I were joking down there at the bottom, which you probably can't see, but it's kind of where's Waldo, how many cats are in this picture. There's cats on the roof, there's cats on the cars, there's cats everywhere, there's cats everywhere at this house. But one on the right, this is a little bit of an afterwards picture of what the property is kind of like now. This was last summer, so it is done, and that house was completely gutted. And I believe it just sold for $500,000. 530. So it brought up about property. We took We took a laid out problem house and turned it into a nice 5-acre home. this back on the market, like a viable home. This one here this was affectionately known as the compound. This was, again, a cooperative effort. Again, the sheriffs, I can't thank the sheriff enough, because when a fire marshal's calling, I was ready to call dispatch and going, I need a sheriff. These guys are there for me. I don't have to do it very often, but every once in a while I do. These guys have been awesome. They've been there. They've helped us out a lot on this. So this was as you see, this starts out in the wintertime, but as you continue to go through, you see the before and after pictures. It took us over almost a year to get this one wrapped up. It was just an absolute mess. These two brothers were going to lose their property. They were going to lose their home. When initially we were taking a lot, people thought we were taking the brothers out and everything else. It's like, well, if we didn't go in and clean this property up, they were going to lose it. So we worked with a lot of, we had the court orders come in and give us a hand with this. We even helped some of these individuals. There's a lot of vagrants that were visiting this property. We had to run them off. There's a lot to the story, but you can kind of see the before and afters. This is a pretty good success story. I'm pretty proud of this one. And we do hop in on this property periodically. We also have been to court on these. These projects, we take these to court. And we have court orders to get this stuff done. So far, we haven't really had to execute court orders. We've been fortunate to get these property owners to work with us. We do take the side of compassion with this. Sometimes we have to take a hard-nosed drive at the beginning, but then we get the compassion of these guys. I love these guys. I stop by, I sit and have coffee in the morning. I'm on my way to work and watch the fish jump in the summertime with one of them. I've got to be present. So, as I said earlier, that we just work alongside with other departments for the other side, the fire marshal side of it. A lot of plan reviews, reviewing blueprints, plans, inspections. Everybody always says, well, you just do fire inspections, right? Sure, we have no idea. That is such a small percentage of what our job really is. So we do work with these other departments, as I mentioned. Fire and life safety inspections, we've established to help, because again, I'm a part-time ordinance, part-time fire marshal, I need time to go off and do all this stuff. So what we've established just recently to help, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, it actually works out great. We've established what's called a duty inspection. Our firefighters are going out doing building inspections for businesses. The awesome part about that is that they're out there and they're getting inside these buildings, they're seeing these buildings, they're meeting the property owners, they're seeing what hazards are in these buildings. So if they ever have, I'd rather, Chief hates when I say this, the first day the firefighter walks in the building should not be the day that it's on fire. So these guys, we're teaching these guys, they're seeing out, they're getting out there and they're learning the businesses, the floor plans, what products are in there, what do they have, what don't they have, do they have basements in these buildings? Important things like that. After they do the inspections, we have these response plans that we now build. That one on the right is a church. Actually, I did not build this one. This one was given to us from somebody, but this is an example of what we build. You can't really see it, but all those little red dots mean things. That on the left over there, all of our firefighters were on their cell phones, or when they're dispatched to a call, a screen like that will pop up. That little green spot on there is that pre-plan. So all they got to do is hit that PP green thing. It says PP. Pre-plan, sorry, pre-plan. And it'll open up that pre-plan. What's important there is our officers who's in the jump seat or the passenger seat of the fire truck on the way to scene can open that up, and he knows exactly where his red fire hydrants are. He knows exactly where the key box is. He can open it up and he can get contact information for the property or the building owners. So this is really something cool that we have just recently started, and we're starting to develop as well. Here's just another example. That's the Salvation Army building right down the road here. Kind of another, we play around with different formats and layouts. Again, it's just overviews of stuff. Rick, I can't talk that fast. I'm trying.
I gotta move you forward.
I know, I'm doing the best I can. And also, here's one of the, and we're almost done. This is something that's been coming up. This has been a big project in our community. Is this medical marijuana? It's legal. It's here. Like it or not, there's a big argument about it. It's here. It's nothing we can do about it. So that's the thing. What we've tried to do is we tried to get out there and be known in the community that we're partners with these growers, and we want to be their partners in safety. I don't care what they're growing. I can care less. It's legal. So we want to make sure that they're out there applying for the appropriate permits, having the right inspections done. Power supply is a leading cause of any grow out fire that I've been on. I've been on quite a few of them. We've had 3 fires here in the township from them. We also want to know, like, just like the buildings that we inspect, what type of fertilizers do they have inside of them? That tank right there is a CO2 tank. It's a 750 pound CO2 tank. That's the same size that you'll see at Burger King and McDonald's. There's a house or a grow up in our community that has 2 of those right taped up next to their pole barn. That's kind of important for me to know as a fire marshal and for my fire guys to know if there's a fire in that structure, if those tanks are impinged on and those pop off valves don't work for whatever reason, those are big bombs. They're going to take out houses. So these are things that we do our inspections and try to know about. And again, these are things that you guys don't really know about that go on in your community, they just do, but that's what we're here for, is to make sure if you don't know about it, then you don't ever have any issues with them. These are just other hazards that come along with the grow ops. As far as the different chemicals, fungicides, off-gas, the CO2, obviously everybody knows it's an odorless, tasteless, colorless gas, and basically what you're just leaving there. They're dismissed, they put that into the air, it helps the plants grow, but I want to make sure they have detectors in there so their workers that are in there working on their plants don't go night-night and never come out. The last thing I think on here is just our rental inspection program. We initiated this a few years back. This is kind of a near and dear to my heart project. We started this from absolute ground zero. There was nothing. We had no idea how many rental houses we had in our community. We still don't, but we're working on it. It all started off right over here on Hickory Ridge, south of 59 on a Sunday afternoon. About 2 years ago, we had a house fire. It was at about 3 o'clock and 3:30 in the afternoon. 7 kids in this house. If it was 3:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, we'd have 7 dead kids. This house was a rental house and it was a mess. It was absolutely a mess. When I went in there, I could not believe the extension cords, open wirings. It was just horrible. No smoke detectors. Extension cords. Anyways, it was just horrible. So we decided that I went and talked to the chief. I went, we got to do this. We have to institute this program. And it's we got a little COVID kicked us back. It is what it is. But we really started to get going. So we've got lists from the various departments in the township and some other outside resources we came across. So far, we've made 462 contacts to addresses off of this list, and we're slowly mailing these out so we don't get over inundated with them. So if anybody has gotten a letter from us saying that, hey, send your rental inspection letter in, it's only because for whatever reason, you were flagged on the list. It's not like we're being mad and they're mean and yelling at you because we think you have a rental. Out of that 467, we had 287 contacts made. We've done 58 inspections so far. We have 14 inspections pending for various reasons. They still need to get some of their paperwork together. But it's fine. This project is fine. I just did one today. This project is really starting to take off, and we'll get some good things coming out of this. I think that's it. Yep. And so with that, thank you. And thank you for our wonderful station. We love it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to tie everything together real quick. I promise to be very quick. This is just our run volume going back from 2002, 2021. Yes, we did have a lot of runs with COVID last year, but COVID's only been for the last 2.5 years. We've been steadily increasing this whole time. We try to provide the best. Go next slide. We try to provide the best service. Chief, our battalion chief talked a little bit about the requirements that are put on us by the state. We don't have the problems like we had back in the 90s where you had waiting lists for firefighters to sign on for paid on call firefighter. Because of all the training that's required of them, guys aren't knocking on our door to get into the service anymore. Not even full time. When I hired in the fire service in 1990 in the city of Wayne, there were 3 positions open, 3,000 people applying for those positions. If you go to this website right here, ftffu.org, it's a job posting. There's 35 departments right now that are looking to hire firefighters. They'll send them to classes, they'll send them to training. Those are full-time jobs. And they pay a lot more than we do. EMS is a national crisis. I talked about it briefly prior. State of Michigan, we've been dealing with it for the last few years. It's not just the state of Michigan, it's across the country. EMS systems are collapsing. The only way we could provide the service is if we took over advanced life support. There are no private ambulance companies out there that we could just knock on the door and say, hey, come respond to Highland. Because they'll tell you they're going to respond, but they're not going to be able to provide the service. Every minute you wait with somebody without a heartbeat, without breathing, the likelihood of them surviving is drastically decreased. All right, I'm done.
You.
All right, thank you.
No, thanks.
It was a very nice presentation.
The truth is, the fire department doesn't get an opportunity to actually present what it does. We get to blow our gas off every month here at our meetings, but they don't get that opportunity. So yeah, most people don't like things that long, but the reality is we need to give them the opportunity to show what they do, and they do a great job at it. So thanks again, Jack. All right. Anybody remember where we were at?
9A.
Okay, this is bring this stuff up. So 9A, this is an ordinance for to make some text amendments to our zoning ordinance, and it's to allow for limited development of single-family homes on certain lots, multiple family zoned parcels. It's to simplify the special use process, to eliminate the requirement for the Board of Trustees to conduct a public meeting or a public hearing before deciding on an application. The board will still entertain comment, but the timeline shrinks considerably from 4 to 6 weeks between planning commission recommendation and board decision. So when somebody has a project that they want to do, this is a way that we can shrink that time for them, because the reality is time is money for everybody. If you're trying to do a project, time is money. And it is for individuals too, you know, residential things. People want to get a project done, or what they've hired a contractor and find out they've got to go through some other things. This is a way to help speed some of that up. Clean up a discrepancy between the zoning ordinance and building code relative to the distance of a generator to an opening in a house, a door or window. So there's a issue where a generator could be set too close to a window. That could be an opening, but you could end up with carbon monoxide poisoning. So we're doing some modifications for that. And redefine the way that subaqueous setback is calculated. Subaqueous setback is what you guys are kind of talking about with this parcel. Subaqueous being water, lakefronts, so on and so forth. It's a changing method only, and it'll pretty much render the same setback, but it's the method for calculation. This is an adoption on this one.
Yes.
Excuse me. So I'll entertain a motion to adopt. Make a motion.
I move to adopt zoning amendment Z025, an ordinance to amend the Charter Township of Highland zoning ordinance. Do you want me to read them all for the agenda? Is that fine?
That'd be good.
Support.
Okay, move and support. Vote, please.
Do we have any discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion on that.
He's fast forwarding
Everyone talking
PowerPoint
about-
slides right now. Might not, but.
Are we good?
I have no discussion.
All right.
Okay,
Vote, please.
all right. Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item. That direction down 59 where the save lot is a parcel that there was a request for rezoning. It's a vacant piece, 16.23 acres. Request was from current zoning of C2, general commercial zoning district, to IM, industrial manufacturing zoning, and the owner is typically new properties. It went before the planning commission. The planning commission made a recommendation to split it. Northern 6+ acres would be purchased. Purchase involved in it with the Shide Properties LLC, and they are saying that they would agree with IM there, but recommend maintaining the C2 general commercial. So or to get into more discussion on that, we need a motion to consider adoption.
To be clear, there were two resolutions presented, two ordinances that were presented at introduction. One had the watermark that says as recommended, which was what Planning Commission was recommending. The other watermarked document was as requested, which was the version requested by the applicant. My recollection was that this board moved to second reading the version that said as requested,
correct,
not the version that says as recommended.
Right.
Both versions are in your packet. So when you make your motion, you do need to make clear which one you are adopting. I presume that the one you moved to second reading is the one that was published before this
correct,
this meeting.
So when we introduced it the last time, at the last board meeting, which is what we're planning on doing on the property, we made the recommendation to put forward the introduction or the adoption as the whole parcel IL. So I guess I'll make a motion to adopt the zoning amendment for C026 to rezone parcel 11-21-426-014 vacant Enterprise Drive 16.23 acres from the current zoning of C2 general commercial to IM industrial zoning district for the entire property. Is that going to cover that?
As requested.
As requested. That's a motion.
Support.
Okay, so discussion. You want to discuss that? So got a lot of faces going, what is going on there? This is a case where this particular piece of property, where it sits and what you can do on industrial and what you can do with commercial. There's all these kind of interplays that occur there. And the board, I believe their inferences, they felt that there was no reason to split this back to C, half of it, keep it C2 and not make the whole thing IM, because I know there was some commentary at the planning commission level where they felt that maybe commercial buildings wouldn't be as nice, or industrial buildings wouldn't be as nice as commercial buildings, but we have a gentleman here in the audience that has some of the nicest industrial buildings. John, your operation is phenomenal. Am I the right guy? Yeah. Oh, I know who you are. Never mind. Anyways, I'm thinking of Highland.
Water treatment.
He looks just like John. I know who you are. I'm sorry, but anyways, it's Highland Treatment on Milford Road. It has beautiful buildings, and they're in an industrial location. On Wardlow Road, east of Milford Road, there's an industrial building that's as nice as any commercial building that you would have out there as well. It's right next to the railroad tracks. So it seemed like it was, we're short on industrial. We have people that need places to be able to put individual businesses that are required to be in industrial. So this makes sense to do that. And we think it would be a benefit really to all of the businesses around there as well. The food store would benefit from businesses that would be located there. So that's just a general sense of why we move forward with that. So I have no other comments. Right.
Ready to vote?
We're ready to vote.
All right, Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamlin.
Campbell, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is an ordinance that we're required to pass, ordinance number 471. Believe it or not, consumers gas, or company gas franchise ordinance, we have to agree to allow them to sell gas here. So
Not like you picked this.
How you stack them, I mean, the pipes are around, but anyways, it's a formality, so, this is an introduction to the ordinance, so I'll make a motion to introduce, board ordinance number 471, gas franchise ordinance grantee energy or to,
Yeah, I think it's a typo.
should be Consumers Energy Company. Its successors and assigns the right authority to lay and maintain commercially operated gas lines and facilities, including but not limited to mains, pipe services on and under, along and across public places, including but not limited to highways, streets, alleys, bridges, waterways, on and on. So that's the motion.
For a period of 30 years is the end. I second, Frederick second.
Okay, any discussion on that? All right, vote please.
Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel.
Mr. Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
I think those,
Question. Is it Consumer Energy or is it, who's the company that you're going to?
Consumer Energy Company.
Yeah, 'cause it says Guaranteed Energy.
Yeah.
that's Grantee Energy Company.
The grant.
So Consumers Energy is the grantee
Grantee.
energy company.
We're the
It
grantor.
caught me off guard
They're
too.
the grantee.
I don't know who it is.
Yeah, it's Consumers.
All right, we can probably just skip this next one. I think. I get hungry. Okay, the next item is to introduce the introduction of the zoning amendment Z027 to rezone parcel 11-8-400-004 vacant Middle Road property of 122.5 acres from ARR agricultural and rural residential zoning to R1 single family residential district. Lisa, there's a couple ways I could go about this. One is we can introduce it as 1.5 acres, and then the board can make a decision. Or I can introduce it as the request, and then this is kind of similar to the last parcel that we just talked about.
That's what I was gonna say. It's it's essentially the same. You can consider the request as recommended by Planning Commission, or you can consider the request as requested by the applicant. You can have discussion, and then somebody, whoever is comfortable with one way or another, can make the motion. If that motion fails, another motion can be made.
Okay, so is there any, an introduction, is there any opportunity to have a discussion with the property owner?
Sure.
You understand what, Mr. Mantua, what the question is? We could go through the process of A or B, and I think that cutting to the mustard, it probably would make sense to do B, which would be introduce it as 3-acre parcels. Is that, you want to discuss your,
Yeah.
we can do it this way. If you want us to go forward with the 1.5 acres, we can vote on it. And
Yeah, you could consider that.
and then the board, because I don't know what the board's going to say, and the board can vote it up or down. Then there's an opportunity to move to the second level, which would be the recommendation for the planning commission. So you have a preference?
Well, I guess, let me just ask these questions real quick, and then you guys make a decision. I'm good with either way. But, you know, when I'm looking at the district regulations for review amendments, you know, I'm asking for the 10 questions that are in the pamphlet. And first one's asking if the proposed amendment will be in accordance with the basic intent of the property, purposes of zoning ordinances, yes. Is the proposed amendment consistent with the master plan of the township? Yes, it is. Has the condition changed since current zoning was adopted, or was there a mistake in zoning ordinance that justifies the amendment? No. Will the amendment correct an inequitable situation created by the zoning ordinance rather than merely grant special privileges? Not applicable. Will the amendment set inappropriate precedent? No. Is the requested zoning consistent with the existing plan or surrounding land uses? Yes, it is. If the rezoning is granted, could all requirements in the proposed zoning classification be compiled with non-subject property? Yes. So would the proposed rezoning be consistent with the trends in land development in the general vicinity of the subject property? Yes. Would the proposed rezoning have a negative impact on public service facilities or roads? No. Would the proposed rezoning negatively impact natural features on the site, such as woodlands or wetlands? No. So I'd like you to consider those 10 questions for my original thing. I'm batting 100% on the, what we're supposed to be looking at. Obviously, it's been recommended 3. Either way, I just want you to consider the 10 things in the amendment.
Just a quick comment. The reason you can consider a different result than what was being recommended is because when this went to the Planning Commission, it was published at the requested 1.5. And so by going to the 300, then you are actually decreasing the density, decreasing the density, which is less of an impact as what was actually published. Also, if I can just throw out there that the property is master planned for either. So either way, 300,
30 acres.
3 acres or 1.5, they would both be consistent with the master plan.
Yes, Beth.
Yes, I have a question maybe for Lisa. Is there any option to just leave the zoning as it currently is, which would mean basically the 5-acre parcels?
Yeah, you could deny the request altogether.
Well, and as they stated at the planning commission, this has been master planned 1.5 to 3 acres for 20 years. Over 20 years. It just has never been requested to change the current 5-acre zone.
So what happens here is we have to make a decision to move this forward. I'm going to make a motion. Then we got discussion on this. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the introduction to read that it would be 3-acre parcels.
Consistent with planning commission.
Consistent with the planning commission's recommendation. And I'll leave that as a motion.
I'll support that because it's a compromise between what it is and what's asked for, and hopefully the public will see it that way. And also that's what the planning commission recommended. So I'll support that.
Okay, so moved and supported. So now we have a discussion. If you don't mind, I'll speak first on this one. I think a lot of people don't really realize how big an acre and a half is, much less 3 acres or 5 acres. I mean, if you own 5 acres, you can kind of know what your parameters are and stuff, but most people don't own 5 acres. And I think that 3 acres, and if it's done appropriately, which this is an opportunity to be able to move forward with the property owners, is to have that further discussion. How do you divide it up? I think that one of the things that we have to consider, and this kind of went through my head when the reason I made this particular motion this way is that if we did make it 1.5 acres, that means the whole parcel's 1.5 acres. And so, and this is no reflection on the Mantua family. I've had conversations with Michael, and I think that he has some really sincere rationale behind what he wants to do. But if somebody came along with a big enough bag of money, a lot of people can get enticed to say, well, geez, I think I better take the bag of money because I got it at 1.5 acres. So Michael's intent and the potential possibility of something else happening, I think is what made me rethink about, what's 1.5 acres, blah, blah, blah. But that's kind of where I think the 3 acre is a good size. And in reality, moving forward, the cost of owning land it's gotten to a point where, people are gonna be dividing things up smaller and smaller over time, just because of what it costs to own land. But it kind of fits, if you look at the overall map, I say it actually fits very well, I believe. If you go from east to west, when you look at the eastern portion of it, there's a whole lot of lots on lakefronts that are a lot less than an acre in size, half acre, even quarter acre. And this kind of is the point where it converges into the 5 to 10 acre parcels that are to the west of it. To the south of it, the majority of the parcels are 3 acres or less. So it really does fit within the area that it's at, in my opinion. And I think it's not a bad idea. So that's my 2 cents. Someone else want to toss something?
So it's my understanding that after we get through this step, that the owners could then come back with a plan development, which leaves open space and then sort of clusters the homes a little bit to average it out to still be 3 acres, right? Density. Right.
There's opportunities, and it's planned residential development is one option where you cluster, and it gives you an opportunity to be able to cluster some parcels closer together, but you have you take the other land and convert it into open space. And I know that a couple of people saw some imagery that Mr. Mantua had. I think I saw it myself, and I thought it was a nice idea, but the problem is that's not the question here. It's what is the ability to be able to, how you can use the land and divide it up. And he does have the ability to divide that property into parcels that we don't have any control. We have no say over it. So, I mean, he can take that land and through the state, divide it up. So this is an opportunity where I think that we can work together with the property owner and get a pretty cool piece of property. And he can have his larger lot that he, in more open space that he'd like to do, and come back and get the opportunity to be able to talk with the neighbors with a more concrete plan. But the reality is for him to go ahead and set up and design out a subdivision and not even have the knowledge of whether you can do it, it's not really the best route to take. You need to really look at what can you do with this property before you invest in it. And that's kind of what I think he's done. Plus, he got to deal with the century on that land, and I'm jealous. So I think that's, and he wants to do something. He lives here now. He wants to really be a part of this community and have a larger space. So I'll answer one question back here.
It seems we keep kicking the obvious can down the road here. This came up during the last meeting. There's only 2 ways to access that property. One is through Mallard's Landing, which is a private road going through our subdivision. A road that we pay for, maintain, plow, what have you. The other access is through Middle Road.
Yep.
The Middle Road, the obvious place to put in the entrance into this property is in a sharp curve. And somebody's already mentioned here the accidents that can occur on Middle Road. We're talking about building a house here without knowing where the door is going.
Well,
it would be nice to know where that access point to that property is going to be.
Okay, that's you want to.
I think this was kind of asked and answered at the planning commission meeting. Mallard's Landing are private roads. If Mr. Mantua does not have a right to the road and you don't grant him a right to the road, there's no road connection there. So the road traffic will come out on Middle Road. It'll be up to the road commission working with the property owner to approve the design of that entrance. We're right now only discussing density. Are we going to have whatever the capacity of the parcel is, if it were developed as 3-acre lots, even though those lots may be anything from an acre to 40 acres? Or are we gonna look at the property that might be developed under the density of 1 lot per acre at hand? It's a density question, and there are no details answered at this point. That all comes as you put together the plan in the future. The road commission will be involved, the health department will be involved. There's a lot of work to be done before you can provide you a proven plan that can be constructed.
So to clarify, at the local level, at the township, we have no real say over where that entrance is gonna go, and that's why you don't have an answer.
Right.
That's
That'll
up
be
to the
worked
road
out with the
commission.
road commission,
Would that be the case even with land divisions?
even with the land division.
Because it's accessing a public road.
So that's why we don't have details.
But if I heard you correctly, you said based on the planning commission meeting, the entrance for Ballard Landing now is off the table? Did I hear you? that?
What they said at the planning commission meeting is there's no known right to access to Mallard's Landing. So if there's no known right of access to Mallard's Landing and Mallard's Landing doesn't grant an access, how is there going to be a connection? There can't be a connection without a right to a connection.
So that would be up, the property owner's gonna have to negotiate if he wants to run that avenue. And I think that, I don't know, I can't say we owe him, but I feel that we owe the individual the opportunity to come back to the township and to his neighbors with a concept and to work together on it, to make the best out of it. So, and I think this individual is somebody that's willing to do that type of thing. That's why when I said something about the 1.5 acres, those scare me because that's where you have somebody just comes in and loads it up. You know, they're going to put in all the roads, at right angles, and that's what scares people the most, I think. So I think that we just need to. This is the first step in how to reuse that land. We didn't get an opportunity to have Six Rivers Conservancy buy it, and the township didn't get an opportunity to buy it because for some reason nobody wanted to communicate with us. This gentleman found the avenue to make that happen, and in reality, it's a piece of land that has a right to be developed, and we can help him craft it by supporting the best way we can, and that's what his wife was asking, is to, let's carry it forward and make sure that he's listened to what all of you have said. And I have to admit that nobody has said anything that's been derogatory here, in my opinion. And I really appreciate that, because there's been some meetings where some things get said that are hurtful. I don't think anybody said that. And I think that the considerations for the value of the land and the water and the frontage and everything, Mr. Mantua understands that. And so I think we have to take it from this point. Let's look at what is going to come forward from it and work together and help craft it. So, yes, ma'am.
I just have another quick question. So I'm just trying to wrap my arms around what would the difference be between the current zoning, which allows 5-acre parcels, compared to, say, 3 acres? I mean, how many additional residences would that include? Or is there any way of telling?
There's only 80 potential acres of buildable land.
So if it was 5 acre, there'd be 16 lots. And then if it was 3 acre, it'd be 26 lots with the 80 developable acres.
And of course, you have to also understand that you've got to take out roads and easements. So that's just
That's just
here. So
that's just those.
it's not like you can
Square.
get 60 homes in there. So
Even at our 1.5, if everything was perfect on 80 acres and you could make 1.5 acres each, you could only get 53 lots or houses.
So roughly the difference between 16 and 26, just as a rough.
right, and you'd probably be more closer to 20 because of roads.
She said 17, right?
And he's,
17 is the Land Division Act.
Yeah.
So,
based on the acreage, they can do 17 land
I
divisions.
definitely know better, but there's like, most of the subdivisions, I think the roads are still zoned ARR, even though they have 25 half-acre lots. Shores or et cetera.
That's an oddity because we were sued for that zoning and we just allowed the development to go forward. But we wouldn't allow the zoning. So that's an oddity.
Okay, I'll let you speak, Alex.
Since you're discussing density, and I've got a question that maybe can't be answered now. We're looking at the property here as a whole. The land directly adjacent to Mallard's Landing, I'm concerned about Mallard's Landing. Let's just say that during this process, we find that that cannot be built upon because it can't be accessed from Mallard's Landing, and let's just say hypothetically that it can't be accessed from Middle Road because of the topography. There's a isthmus there, it's not solid land. So you develop this density formula over the whole acreage and say, okay, we can do 3 acres taking into consideration that part that can't be built on. We'll make that a park, and that's fine. That's a perfectly legitimate solution. But then what if he decides that to sell that part that's not buildable, and then your whole density changes? Does the density change for the remaining property? What do you do then? Is that
No, I don't think it really changes in that formula. Don't get me wrong on this. This is a scenario that I've seen in a lot of these situations where there's an open piece of land and the people surrounding it want to influence it and are upset because it's getting used in a different format. If that piece is not buildable, then it certainly could be purchased by the people in Mallard's Land. If they're that.
Say you want to make a park out of it. Yeah.
I mean, he shouldn't have to, I mean, he doesn't have to pay for it, but maybe you guys that live in Mallard's Land, you could make an offer and buy it. I'm just throwing it out there. So there's a lot of avenues to this, so we can't
What
answer
happens then
that.
to the density of the remaining property where all those buildable sites are? Doesn't your density increase within that area?
No.
No.
It doesn't.
So if you sold off 20 acres out of 80 usable, so you have the 60 acres left, you can only still do the 3 acres.
Equivalent.
And it'll still work within your formula.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
And I think that this is a good opportunity that Mr. Mantua is hearing these questions, and let's see what he comes back with. I think it's got some possibilities. I think it's the first thing that I saw that he did was creative. It wasn't just a straight line. There was some thought put into it. But I think the biggest misinterpretation is that the lots that he had laid out were 3 acres, but half of it's in the water. So it's because of the way it's platted. So it's kind of, let's see what he can come back with. I think that we give him a good opportunity. We aren't shrinking it down into 1.5 acre lots.
Beth, I have a question. So if it's a 3 acre density or lot size, how much has to be buildable? Is it 2?
Under basic zoning, you have to have 2 acres buildable for a 3 acre lot.
Okay.
If you talk about a cluster development,
no,
any kind of lot size that you propose can be considered. As long as the health department will approve a well septic.
And these would most likely be individual wells and septics. And what number of houses do you have to go to the water system or consider?
Depends on your density. At a 3 acre density, you can only have 29 homes before you have to put in a central water system.
Okay. Thank you.
And that central water system can be incredibly expensive. So that would be millions of dollars. So it's the kind of thing where you don't want to be encumbered if you don't have to. But, right, so if there's no more comments, then
I was just gonna remind you later, if you don't know the vote.
I can't remember. Usually forget. I'll call for a vote then, please.
Mr. Howe,
Can we reread the
Yeah,
motion? I'm
please.
Yes,
sorry.
the motion is.
No, that's good.
The motion is to approve the rezoning to 3 acre parcels.
Introduce.
Yes, introduce a rezoning. And so it's just the first step.
Right.
We can't approve it until the next meeting,
Gotcha.
if
As-
that's what the board
As
wants.
per the recommendation.
Right. Mr. Howell votes yes.
For yes.
Frederick, yes.
Rick Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Hamel?
Yes. Okay,
Motion
so
carries.
thank everybody for coming out. Appreciate your input. I know some of you may not be happy with it, but I think it is a compromise, and I appreciate the fact that you do come out and you do participate. So that's important. Mr. Mantua, thank you, and hope to see you back soon so that we can see what we can do with that. And something very creative that's commendable to everybody. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, item C.
Let's just give 2 minutes.
What's that?
Hold on.
Yeah, I can use.
Go ahead. Jimmy's like, get out of my way. 2 minutes. I can't even.
Hey, Rick, before you start again, I muted your thing because it was a cacophony. Could you unmute?
Next time, I would like to require, if there's gonna be a presentation, I would like it on my screen, so I don't have to turn around.
Or a heads up with the time parameters.
Like 15 minutes.
I thought-
Oh, let's like, that's why I said they don't get an opportunity.
No, no, it was a good presentation. I just wasn't expecting.
Oh, you wanted how long? So you could have came in after.
It's almost.
That was nice.
Okay, let's move forward.
Yeah.
The next item, C, is the first amended interlocal agreement for the formation of the Act 196 Authority to Provide Transportation Services, also known as WODA. What happened is when we signed the original agreement, there was a thing called a formulary in there that after 2 years would determine what the individual townships contribution would be. And what ended up, and it was based on rides and so a bunch of other stuff, and it was literally something that I don't think any of the boards could have possibly calculated. It's one of those where the 3 township supervisors and the people, the representatives from Wall Lake, we all went, whoa, that was not what we thought we were getting into. So this is an amendment to that interlocal agreement to take out the formulary and to define the amount that would be required by the different communities. So I'll make a motion to approve this first amendment and allow the supervisor to sign.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion on it?
I have one question. On page 169, number 4,
Oh, geez.
I know. Detail, sorry. Hold on. It's in the jeans. It says, once the public agency members have been appointed, the public agency members may take action to appoint up to 2 additional voting members of the WODA board. Shouldn't that be shall? And maybe this is.
Yeah, that wasn't part of the amendment.
Okay.
So that
And
was
so
the
that's the way it was
original.
before?
Right.
How many people are on the WODA board now?
If you go to the.
Is there just the
So-
3?
Page
No, no.
172, it looks like town.
There's actually
2 votes for township public.
there's actually
Oh, wait.
a senior member. There's a
I know that there's the 3,
3
Waterford,
communities,
White Lake, Super, and Highland.
right? And then Wall Lake.
Oh, so there's, and Wall Lake's voting.
Wall Lake votes. There's also a member, a community member. Then there's a senior member. Let's see, what else do we have?
And are they all voting members?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And that was my question. It just, the way I was reading it, it felt like it was unbalanced. It felt like it could be the three or 4 communities and that was it. And I'm like, we need somebody that's part of the program or somebody. from the
That's
public.
exactly what it is.
Okay, but it says may,
Yeah.
not shall, and you know how that may and shall goes.
Members may.
It sounds like you don't have to do it. That was why I'm questioning it.
Well, I guess in response to that, yeah, you don't have to.
Shall.
Again, looking down the road, it's like, I'd want to make sure that board was balanced.
Oh, that's something I'll bring up. Got a meeting tomorrow. So.
Sorry, it's just all about the details.
No problem. All right, so.
4 minutes, let me.
That was discussion.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other discussion on it? Do we have support on it?
Yes, Hamel and Lewis.
Vote, please.
All right, Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mike Flowers votes yes, Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mr. Hamel,
And yes.
motion carries.
Okay, the next item is cost participation agreement for the 2022 gravel road program. Each year we participate in the gravel road program or have been participating in it. And it makes a huge difference on our roads. So
Is this the spring?
it's a tri-party,
No, this is the graph.
Oh, the gravel, okay.
It's a tri-party thing, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We share that with the county.
Oh, this is the gravel?
Yeah.
This is the
Okay.
gravel. Yeah. So we share it with the.
That was the only one.
The road commission, Oakland County, the township. So it says the estimated cost of the project is $120,000. That's not our share. Our share is $40,279. So this would be, I'll make the motion to approve the supervisor to sign the cost participation agreement for the Board of County Road Commissioners.
Support.
He's not.
You're not
For the
done?
gravel road
Oh,
program.
sorry.
Name out.
He's a P paused.
No, I spaced out. I didn't
As a
pause.
tri-party agreement?
It was a- yeah.
All right.
Tri-party agreement with a cost estimated to be $40,279.
Support.
Who can support it? Questions?
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
it is.
Oh, yes, it is.
I never
Vote,
propose,
please.
I just support.
I just want to know, this is already budgeted for.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, voting.
Who seconded?
Me.
How many times?
Twice.
All right.
I want double count, please.
Oh, wait. Okay, voting. Mrs. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Support. I know what the next one already is gonna be. so-
Tammy, we figured out your pattern for voting.
So we just start saying whatever.
Okay, I lost it.
So this
P,
is dust control.
this
Dust
is dust
control.
control.
This is not gravel.
No, this one's dust control.
You need the clerk to take over.
Set 'em up.
Okay,
You guys are all getting too slap happy for
Oh,
me.
my goodness.
Meetings should never be longer than an hour.
okay, so
Hour,
Presentations.
we're going for 2.
this, attached in your board is a list that shows the roads and the
Right.
gravel and so on and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll make a motion that,
Is there 2 motions?
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The first motion is we need to approve the Oakland County Dust Control Program for 2022 with 5 blanket applications for the amount of $55,202.70.
Five? Been five for.
It's been 5 for the last 3, at least 3
Okay,
years.
all right.
When we did the blanket, there's 2 options. You can have targeted where it's on demand only. So you'll get like
That's residents.
Lone Tree Road. Lone Tree Road. They'll have sections where people don't want to
Oh, that's a
put it on
mess.
there. They skip it. So this was something that they recommended a number of years ago.
Okay.
If you do the blanket, it's a lot cheaper.
All
So, all right, so that's a
Give a
motion.
motion, a second. Support.
I'm done now. You guys gonna get your crap.
You used it up.
The next thing is we're gonna run out of time on Zoom here.
Do you want to vote on that or talk
Vote,
about it?
please.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
I have a question on that, just it's something totally different, but is there a schedule? Like, I ride my bike a lot on the dirt roads and I'm always worried, and we had that conversation before, you rode one time, your bike rusted right out.
I had to throw it.
Yeah,
So on the Oakland County Road Commission website,
Okay,
you watch it. They update it periodically, but it's usually just like everything else. Holidays, kind of.
okay,
May,
So
Okay.
Memorial Day.
just so you know what it is,
Through
and
October.
and what roads are
And
doing,
it's-
right?
all of them.
Okay,
To give you an idea how
They're
perfect
listed,
it
it's
works,
listed in the package.
it's just when the roads get really crappy,
We get
we get a whole bunch of phone calls. Can you do something about
And they
this
do it
road?
the
And the
next
next
day.
day, they come out and they grade.
okay,
And it makes us look like we're
Oh, yeah.
super beings because they came
Okay.
immediately, but they were
sometimes
actually.
you get out there, you're wondering if it's just wet, or is it actually that stuff they put out
And
there?
it's based on rain too. They do like a light rain after they do it.
Okay.
Do that by that. Yes, sir.
What's the difference between D and E? D is just
One-
grading,
no,
and
one's
E is
gravel.
just,
Yeah, one's gravel.
what's grading, like grading?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, and then D is just, it doesn't.
Yes.
Pest control, right. So one is like the building of the roads, the other one is just grading, grading and chloride. So, all right.
We voted on the first motion.
Okay, second motion. This is the private road thing.
Dust control reimbursement.
So I'll make a motion to approve private road dust control reimbursement at the rate of
It's
30
on your
cents
memo.
per lineal foot, or 50% of the total private contractor bill, whichever is less.
For support.
Moved and supported. Any comments? Roll please.
All right. Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Hall votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item. I don't know, man, it's a lot of money. Okay.
Oh, yourself?
Just checking.
Now you know why I got that hard seat for you.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, well, we're in the process of the remodel, and this is the smart and time to be looking at this process. This is the purchase of Sheriff Department security cameras, and I don't know if anybody wants to have a real big discussion on it. Matt, would you like to talk about it quickly?
Well, my system's about 10 years old. Some of the cameras are black and white. Some of them got
Some are post office.
Some got damaged during the construction project. We got tearing off the brick on the exterior. This is something I was looking at a couple of years ago, and then I was part of the building project. So I put it on hold. COVID put it on hold. The timing worked out great because we have an IT liaison in our emergency preparedness unit that I've used for some of our IT stuff in the building, talking to them about our call box issue, our antenna that was on the outside of the building for downloading our watch guard videos. So he knows I was doing this building project. He reached out to me and said that we have this company, we're sending them out to the substations. He's going to inspect your camera system and give you a quote. He came out, he told me that my interview rooms don't meet the state law requirement. So this system, it's two separate systems. I have to have a system for my interview rooms. And the interview rooms have to have a system that can't be tampered with. It has to cover every square inch of that interview room. That's the cost of it. So that'll make me up to par with the state law standard on that one. The second one is a separate system, which my old system, I only had like 3, maybe, I can't even remember anymore, but at least 3 working cameras on the exterior of my building. This system will give me 8 total. It'll give me the lobby, it'll give me the detention cell I have inside my building, and it'll give me 6 cameras on the floor. And our sheriff's office has already vetted this company based out of Brighton, and they're planning on using them for our headquarters building, Rochester Hills, Township, and Highland. And the idea is if we get as many substations or stations with this system, we can eventually get the county to put it on our network. So now we can interview somebody in Rochester Hills. You know, that's the idea for the future. So if the timing worked out great, where he knew I was doing this building renovation, he reached out to me, we got the quote. We have vetted them, the sheriff's office has vetted this company, and you have the quote in front of you.
So for the interview rooms, it's semi-mandated from county to use this company.
because they know they meet the requirements and they can tie it in together.
Yes, that's their plan.
And then the other part of it is it mandated that we went with that company, but we do have savings from using the same people. So what we're, the total of the package is $30,000, which exceeds our threshold for doing sealed bids, but because of the particular situation, we should include our motion to waive the policy.
Purchasing policy.
For the reasons stated.
You want that two separate motions?
There can be one motion.
Yeah.
Well,
I generally like it two separate, but if you've always done it as one, it's fine.
no, I think we've always done it as separate motion.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I'm not very familiar with, and I should be, so I apologize, the relationships and whether the township owns the building, leases it to the sheriff's department.
Correct.
My question is, does the sheriff's department is listed as the client
Right.
as opposed to the township, but the township is purchasing,
The police millage.
But it's
through township funds.
Township.
So I'm just questioning logistically, we wouldn't be third-party beneficiaries to this contract. We wouldn't have the warranties attached to this contract. It would all be the client, which is the sheriff's department. So I'm wondering what other communities have done when they've entered into these types of purchases. And maybe that's something we could look at before it's actually purchased. Because I don't think does it matter to the sheriff's department if it's in the township's name or in your name?
No, it can be in the township's name. That's not gonna be an issue.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that's something that the township ought to consider, just to ensure that we have the benefits of the warranties and it's on our building.
So should we say with review of the contract by the lawyer? Approval of the contract.
Is that your motion?
I don't make motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we set aside the
Purchasing
To
policy.
waive the
to waive the
purchasing.
purchasing policy for the purchase of video camera system for the Oakland County Sheriff's Office.
I second, Frederick second.
Okay, let's
This is the purchasing.
To waive the purchasing policy.
waive the policy.
Oh, all right,
So-
want to vote on that?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Howe,
Mr. Hall votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mrs. Frederick.
Frederick, yes.
Fred Flowers votes yes, Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, so then the next motion, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of case cracker system for $22,920. The 8-camera CCTV system for building security cameras costs $7,050 for a total cost of $30,970. Subject to the final approval of the contract with our attorney.
Support. We're done.
Yes. Okay, moving forward.
Ready to vote?
Any
I
discussion?
have one question, of course I do, right? Only one. Is MMRMA still doing the security camera thing, the security camera grant? And if so, are we not applying it here because we're gonna do security cameras in townships?
So my understanding of the MMRMA is not for new construction. It's for, so like when we did it before, we had an existing concession stand that we were having, concerns with. And we applied for the grant because we were having problems and they were like, yes, we see that you need those because you're having problems on that existing building. I know this is semi-existing building, but
It's new.
it's their focus is like not when you're in the middle of building. Their focus is after it's already
Even if
done.
it's in the same place, huh?
Right.
Just asking, I just don't want to pass up $24,000 that we could get from somewhere else.
And their cameras are not gonna be the $24,000 ones.
Right, and I'm asking probably not for the sheriff's because it's a different animal.
Right.
But for maybe the township going forward.
Yeah. Existing structures.
Thank you.
More time you want to waste?
No.
Both of you stop.
Ready to vote?
We can talk more than I.
Yes, go please.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Yes or no? Jenny?
Frederick, yes. I couldn't get it out.
Clerk Flowers votes yes, Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
motion carries.
That's more planning commission meeting, you just be getting started.
All right, number 13 is, or
G.
next one is
Budget amendment.
budget amendment to cover what we just approved.
I'll make a motion that, to approve the budget amendment to cover the cost of police security cameras.
Support.
Moved and supported, right, please?
Right. Let's see where we're at. Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes, Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mrs.
Cooper, yes.
Cooper, Mr. Hamel,
Mr. Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next item is resolution 22-04 to designate temporary polling location for August 2nd, 2022 primary election.
So Spring Mills is going to be tore up this summer.
Oh.
And so the August election has to be moved and we don't want the voters to have to go very far. So there's a church right in that neighborhood and we'd like to use that other church, but just for August only. So
I would move to approve resolution 22-04 to designate Highland Community Church as a temporary polling location for the August 2nd, 2022 primary election.
Support.
Moved and supported. Question, Lisa, did we get that solved?
yeah, we have a contract that we sign with these non-governmental organizations. And I talked with the church secretary today and she said that they do indeed have the authorization to offer this to us.
You guys have your ducks in a row more than I thought you did. So when I saw that come across without a contract, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And Tammy's like, nope, we're on it. We got it.
Now you know who does.
Yeah, right?
Okay, good job.
Sometimes.
Okay, so,
Ready to vote?
did we, I did a motion. Yeah. That's
We're
right.
ready to vote.
Yep.
Okay, Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howell votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Next item. This doesn't call this a discussion item. We received memorandum, the township was awarded $2,111,374 from the coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds under the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA funds. We received the first payment of $1,055,687. $387, so I'd like to start a discussion with township over a possible project. So Jennifer put together a list of things that
Like that.
Tammy
Excuse
and
my
I-
spelling mistake.
the computer did that. I know it.
Complex.
So anyways, these are some of the projects that we were looking at. We've got the Duck Lake court repairs would be the basketball court, the tennis court, and the hockey rink. Then there's Hickory Ridge, the trails in the north, the Hickory Ridge Pines Park need some serious attention in terms of being walkability. There's sewer exploration, which we need to continue to do, so there'd be resources that would be used to look at the engineering and the possibilities for a couple of different, there's a downtown Highland concept that we have, that would be like a micro system. And then there's also East Highland, Duck Lake and 59, which we've been talking with White Lake about for years. So those are for the exploration of that, and hope we get that moving. There's the water main expansion, Milford Road running south to get it to Watkins Boulevard and High School. So the high school is very much interested in it. Mr. Napoleon was interested in it. He's got that piece that I know that Shocker Al-Kahafi, by this butcher his name, I think, owns a parcel across from the school board offices. There's 16 acres there. He wants to put in apartments, and I've already seen the proposals for that. I had a conversation with 2 weeks ago.
Right in front of the school?
Yeah. And there's, and right behind the mall there. And these would be very nice apartments. I mean, one thing, Highland is woefully short.
Yes.
There's places where some of the people that retire have no place to go. This is the way to stay in the community. Gets them right there. We got Leo's. It's opening up in a few days.
It's really not much rental at all. My son's moving to Milford now because it's frustrating.
So this is something that they could use. They definitely need the water for.
Where's it at right now? How far down is it?
It's right behind the gym. The power.
No, the water main.
Oh, the water main, right in front of Duke's.
At Duke's, okay.
The south lot line.
Okay, thanks.
So.
Dukes is not the water line.
All right, so then,
I just have a quick question. How much would be left after taking out the amount that's already been allocated for the broadband, VODA, and fire code?
So those are both between 25 and 30,000 each. So we only allocated about less than 60,000. So we got lots.
what we'll do is Jeffrey kind of put together a spreadsheet that spreads it out over a number of years. And I think we've got to refine it a little bit, but that's something we'll get back to the board with.
And Brian's suggesting we add bike paths, because this is the discussion
Oh,
for.
now I really think we need to look at, I don't know where we're gonna put it, but somehow we need to link up our township to Milford. It's hard, sad thing, it's not even that far. It's just finding the spot to do it.
So we did get down to Row Road, almost. We got down to 5-star. Let's see.
Gilroy's.
Could you go Hickory Ridge, since we're purchasing that park property? And
So
then
it's
go
all-
down like Lone Tree?
All about the shoal, where are you gonna put one adjacent to the road itself? Or
Just
you
get
gonna?
to Milford, so you hook up to the Y there, just get down towards
So we've always.
north of Kroger, then you're linked up to the sidewalks, you get yourself down to the Y.
So we used to work with MDNR to do petty boat as a connector, because it's gravel, and we could get a grant through the Michigan National Resource Trust Fund. But they haven't had talks with us in years.
I still like this to be, once we put down just a nice path, people could go into town. It's not that far.
So-
Anybody else, where do you do it?
Yes.
Well, it's.
The gas line.
So as a bicyclist.
The gas line was perfect, but I don't think that would work. But
It's gonna take years.
It really needs to be on Milford Road because of the high school. People need to be able to
So as a
get to the
bicyclist,
stores.
do you ride on sidewalks? Or no?
Something, if you times, if you have to,
As
yeah,
long
for
as it
sure.
says,
Yeah, you have to, sometimes you do for sure. It just depends on where you are. But I try to stay off the roads as much as possible. I mean, I'll bring Milford Road down like north of 59 sometimes, the traffic's not too bad. But I hit every sidewalk I can, but it's hit and miss. Then you're going through some yards or whatever to get yourself down, and you work yourself across and get back home. But I mean,
I don't think any of the property owners would notice if we just got a big bulldozer.
no, it's not that far.
Never noticed it. All those big trees just in the way. So,
But I'd like to put it down, at least we need to explore.
joking aside, we'll put that on the list.
Yeah.
well, and think I heard.
I just think it'd be used a lot. I know, but by people just walking into town,
This one out here gets used.
use it, sure does.
Nice.
Who's been plowing that?
We have,
That's really nice. I notice it every time, right after the snow. Good job.
so it's 8 miles of, wow.
Yeah,
Wow. There's a lot.
it's a nice path, it really is.
We're on one blade of it.
Except you almost get hit. You get hit when you're crossing the road on the walks.
So the Duck Lake courts. Question, the tennis court, I saw something on pickleball the other day. Is pickleball and tennis, can you play on the same court?
Yes,
Perfect.
you just have to,
I just think it would be
you have
used
to
a
be
whole lot
painted
more.
out differently.
Can you paint like both in different colors? Okay, awesome. I think
We
that would be a
had
great idea.
a tentative
Be used more.
proposal for all of that. And, you know, some new pickleball courts, and it was done with from an aerial, so it wasn't really looked at in terms of land. What happens is tennis court sits here, and with a pickleball court, you're gonna go goes, you know, goes up 15 feet in the air, so it would be incredibly expensive to build them out there. But that bill for rebuilding those things was $675,000. So actually rebuilding came in as one of the, I'll call it a Rick original. I got thinking about, you know, when you're building a road, when you put crushed aggregate in, you compact the heck out of it, and you put your finish, whether it's bituminous or concrete. And I got thinking those things have been in there since what, the 90s?
No, 2004.
Well, too, long time.
I was gonna say it's-
The asphalt is, when they roll asphalt out, it spreads it out. It's like a rubber, it shrinks over time, well, it pulls itself apart. The courts are actually in good shape, except they're all cracked up. They got these shrinkage cracks. So why not pour cement on top? And so Beth looked on the internet, and it turns out that now there's companies that are actually cementing over asphalt parking lots, big commercial jobs. It reduces the heat disbursement from it. As long as it isn't a crumbly mess, you know, then you just grind it up. But it looks like
Probably a lot cheaper, right?
yeah, I mean, this would be a case where this could be incredibly cheap in comparison. I mean, incredibly cheap. So it's the kind of thing where if we can make that kind of effect, compare those, and we're not trying to match a grade to something else. If you were, you know, you wouldn't pour cement on top of something else and then have to step down into your garage or something. That would become dumb. So anyways, looks like a highly feasible thing to do. So anything else?
Another idea for Duck Lake, maybe expand that playground. Of course, nothing like at the library, but there's kids there all the time. So to give them somewhere, you know, to upgrade that a little bit, I think it would get used a lot. There's like a dog park somewhere.
Yeah, actually, that's part of the plan.
Is that
of the new property.
Awesome.
So that would be a
What would it
dog.
take to take that bike path where it's at the library and expand it to? No, I'm just asking. No, I mean, to like Duck Lake Road. I mean, get over there.
Beth knows a little more about that.
I know 59 was.
We tried to work with MDOT.
I know 59 was intended to be that on the side, but that's
No.
that's not even, that's
No,
safe.
that was not intended to be that. That's a safety refuge lane for vehicles to pull off.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
People use it as a pedestrian way, but it is not.
Gotcha.
And
Would
we
you say-
had at the time that they did the grant with MDOT to get what we got from Milford Road to the library. There was actually a plan to go the rest of the way. And MDOT did not like Powell's plans at all. And
They had to like do a bridge is the best word I
Yeah, it
could
was
think of
just
across what like
yeah,
or is that?
Downey Lake,
Yeah,
you gotta go that whole drop off.
there's all kinds of AASHTO conflicts with where the light
Okay,
poles
all right.
are.
Okay.
It was a lot more challenging than we were led to believe it was going to be.
I wonder if we could cross at Milford and then have it on the south side.
That would, there's fewer conflicts,
Yeah.
actually. It's really on the north side, there's just not room to put
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Can we put one right down the middle?
Not a bad idea. There's a median there.
I think we probably should. Do that more.
We're asking, he said, I asked suggestions, I'm just curious.
Yeah, and if
I haven't
there's,
said nothing all night except for.
We just burned up our money, so we did.
no, this isn't just so future.
No, I'm just, yeah, I mean, I
We
agree.
didn't, that's why we didn't put any numbers to it, because we don't know, and we have the 4 years to spend it for it, so.
So there's no money left for a township airplane. None of that good stuff, you know, so.
Dang it.
All right, so,
The drone fighters.
good discussion, really appreciate that, and, that's some good things to be thinking about. I said, you know, my head, you know, I tend to look at things differently.
Yeah, sure.
The irony is that I have to differ with Beth on what that paved piece was, because I was personally involved in it when they took the land away from the front of it. That was a bike path. And it was listed on the drawings, the original drawings. of the bike path.
And that's got it listed as a refuge.
That's what they converted it to, all they were trying, so they widened, when they did the, new asphalt work and stuff.
You told me that, that's why I thought that, you told me
Yeah,
that before.
that was a bike path, and then you have to ask the question, if it's not a bike path, why does it have handicap ramps? That's an issue. Okay, so let's move on to the next item. Gonna make a motion to recess.
Lisa's leaving.
No, I have a back issue, so I'm just gonna stand for a little bit.
Lisa's Apple Watch told her to stand up.
Time to stand.
I don't have.
We'll make a motion to recess into closed session to consider the purchase of real property in accordance with MCL 15.2681D. You have to combine it into two motions.
You should do two separate motions, but you can do them both right now.
Okay, that's a motion.
I support it.
Okay.
Support.
Vote please.
I thought I just had to support it. It's done.
Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe, yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick. Frederick, yes. Mrs. Flowers votes yes. Sorry, Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
That's what it reminds me of.
Next item, motion to recess into closed session for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement in accordance with MCL 15.2681C.
Support.
Moved and supported. Roll please.
Mr. Howe.
Yes, please.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick. Frederick, yes. Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
What's that fly zapper up there, chief?
Okay, so, for
Yeah.
Shut it off.
God.
Thanks
Steve
for
Wells,
hanging out,
can
guys.
you hang on for just a second?
Now.
We're gonna put this into pause. I'm gonna, actually, I'm gonna stop. the
It
recording.
might be easier to just leave the, for us to leave the room.
Oh, there's no place to go.
I'm going home.
So,
Oh, your escape.
You can't go, all the plants are gonna die.
all right, we're back in session. I guess I'm on a motion roll. And I should keep on going. I make a motion to consider the letter of agreement between Charter Township of Highland and Highland Township Michigan Association of Firefighters.
Cooper, support.
Okay, move for support. Vote please.
All right.
Clerk Flowers.
No, this is.
Jenny, are you ready to vote? So to approve the agreement with the firefighters. Frederick, yes. All right, Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so on that note, the meeting is adjourned.